what I find problematic with the Act is that it doesn't really give a lot of guidance to a committee. So because because it's quite old, it's only a 30-section statute, which is almost unheard of in legislative drafting currently, but all the guidance that it's available is in the middle of the legislation, which in very broad terms just says a committee has all the rights, privileges, and powers of the person would have had if he or she had capacity. So in other words, you stand in their place for the purposes of all their decisions. Section 18 provides that powers must be for the benefit of the person and his or her family, having regard to the nature and value of the person's property and their circumstances and needs, and here's the key element of that, and the needs of those of his or her family. So you're looking not just at the adult, but you're also looking at what the family needs. Why is that section there? Well, because if a person has dependents, the committee would want authority to provide for the dependents. There's perhaps circumstances where they gave out gifts to certain family members or paid for certain things for family members. But there's a lot of gray in this area. Where does it stop and start? If you're going to give gifts, how much of a gift can you give? Do you need court approval to get a gift? Can you make a will for the adult? Or can you do something that would affect their estate plan or do some sort of tax freeze? And so you really have to turn to the common law principles. In other words, look at the legal cases to determine what the parameters are of your authority under that section. And Section 18.2, which is tucked in there, which is a nod to the supported decision-making model that was inserted when the Adult Guardianship Act was amended to create a certificate of incapability process. So this is the area where you will see, luckily, in the Patients' Property Act, the supported decision-making notion that a committee must, to the extent reasonable, foster the independence of the patient and encourage the patient's involvement in any decision-making. And certainly when we are acting as committee, that has been a part of our policy as committee for a long time, is to, if we were going to sell the adult's house, talk to the adult about how they feel about that, or talk to them about a particular approach that we would take in managing their affairs. Notification to public guardian and trustee is required for these applications, and we get notification because we're looking for certain things, and also because we will have ongoing involvement in the committeeship. So we will look for security for the management of the adult's affairs. When someone has chosen someone themselves, it denotes that they trust that person to take care of them. But if it's a court application and it's maybe a family member or friend or trust company, then they haven't been placed in that position of trust vis-a-vis managing the adult's affairs. So it leaves the question of, well, should they then, for instance, post a bond for their management so that if something goes awry or something unforeseen occurs, there's some remedy, and the bonding, which acts as an insurance policy, will pay out on the claim. That's one form of security, is bonding. Another form of security, and this is also embedded in the Patients' Property Act, is to put a restriction on the committee's management of the adult's affairs such that they would not be able to, for instance, sell property without the written consent of the public guardian trustee or further order of the court, or that they would not be able to access capital of a particular investment without the written consent of the public guardian and trustee. So the public guardian trustee has this ongoing role to provide consent and then also to pass accounts. And that's another requirement of the Patients' Property Act, is that you have to provide your accounts on a timeline as set by the public guardian trustee, who will review the accounts, set remuneration for the committee, and then give you a certificate of passing, which means that you've managed appropriately. So there's a series of administrative steps that can happen in the course of a committeeship.